These are the 5 things you can do to ensure success in learning the English language. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Input English. Today I'd like to share 5 things that make your language learning journey in English a certainty. Success can be ensured by these simple methods. Of course, we are using comprehensible input. The nature of the English language, its complex grammar, make it perfectly suited to using comprehensible input. So here are our 5 recommendations. Number 1, passion. Passion is the driving force. If you are in love with the English language and you really, really want it, that drives this journey. Passion will be what makes things happen. Now, during our discussion today, we're going to create an analogy. Since this is a journey, our analogy is going to be to a vehicle, a mode of transportation. Let's call it a car. Passion, your reason why you are doing this, is the engine. It's why you have undertaken this journey, and passion will drive this forward. It's the power. If someone says, maybe I should learn English because it might be useful, that's not powerful. If, on the other hand, someone says, I have to have English because of the literature, or the music, or the movies. I'm in love with the English language. I want to be able to travel all over the world and speak to people in various places using English because it works that way. Find the passion that drives you, and it will help ensure your success. It's the engine of the little car we're building for this journey. Number 2, fun. You need to find fun ways of learning English. Our analogy to the car, fun represents the wheels. It keeps things moving. If you try to learn English and it's not fun, what happens? Well, with no wheels, no movement. So fun is what keeps you moving on your journey. As you choose your content for comprehensible input, select things that are fun, things that interest you, things that capture your imagination, so that every day as you absorb more and more English, the whole process is really fun. You need to find the game. Turn it into a game and play the game. Have fun. Number 3, habits. Habits are far more powerful than willpower. Willpower is when you force yourself to do something you don't want to do. Well, what happens? When you try to use willpower, you wind up with fatigue and antipathy, and those 2 things tend to bring you to a stop. They cause burnout. People lose interest. Habits are much more powerful than willpower because it takes a person a couple of weeks to form a habit, and then things just happen automatically. Now, when you form your habits, you are in control of what habits you form. For me, for instance, I get up every day and have coffee and breakfast. It's a habit. But during that period of about an hour, I absorb an hour of input in Spanish. That has served me extremely well. And before I came here to make this video, I already have 1 hour of input that I got in my day because it was a habit. Another time you can purpose for input is travel time. Driving a car, riding on public transit, Potentially riding a bicycle, be careful. Walking. When we are traveling, that time, if you have earphones and a device, could be repurposed for comprehensible input. A third parcel of time that may be available to you is at the end of the day, after work, after the events of the day, before dinner, after dinner. Now, many people watch a lot of television, and I, for one, don't have a television. I'd much rather do something useful than watch television. So if you find that you have some time in the evening that can be repurposed, you may be able to expand the amount of input you get based on these habits. Form habits. Do it purposely. You're the one that decides. Number 4, consistency. You are far better off doing a little bit every day compared to doing nothing for days on end and then trying to make up for that with a marathon session. You don't want to do that. Consistency is super powerful, and it's our number 4. In our analogy with the car, consistency is keeping you on the road. Now, if you lose your consistency, let's say something comes up and you have to take a couple of weeks off. You have a trip you have to make and it's impractical, or an illness or something comes up and you get off track and you lose that consistency, it's very easy to get back into it with just a little bit of focus, a little reminder of what you want, and then just reestablish that consistency. Get back on the road. And number 5, choosing your input. For comprehensible input to be useful to you, the material you're absorbing should be comprehensible. Sure, it should be something you understand, and you understand well. You want the story. If somebody is telling you a story or discussing a topic with you, you want the content to be easy enough to understand that you get the story. You don't have to get every word. No, you'll learn the words you don't know in context because they are in this story, and you will get it naturally. You should know most of the words, at least enough of the words that you understand the story. Now, what if you choose material that you don't understand? Well, then your learning process will be much slower and less efficient. Now, in school, we are taught to strive and struggle and work hard and learn things that we're completely unfamiliar with by rote methods, studying lists, memorizing facts. So those old habits from school do not serve us well in this process of comprehensible input. We are learning a language a natural way, and that's with stories and conversations, discussions, and you really want the material to be easy enough that your brain can understand it and bring the language in. As you get the story, you get the language. As you choose your content, you might want to refer back to some of the other recommendations. For instance, it should be fun. The content, you need to be able to understand it for sure, but it also needs to grab your imagination. It needs to be fun. It needs to be interesting. And as Krashen said, compelling. Now, the input that you choose is going to change along your journey. If, for instance, you love wonderful literature and you'd like to take advantage of literature in English, it's readily available. And for the language learner, there is a magical tool called an audiobook. So you get an audiobook and you start to listen to it. If you can understand the story, you're golden. Perfect. If, on the other hand, you don't understand the story and it's hard to follow, no problem. Just stop, put it aside, because in a few months, you'll probably understand it much better. Remember, in school, we are taught to struggle. And so it's very tempting to drag ourselves through something we don't understand with some misguided idea that there's virtue in struggling. Well, in some circumstances there may be, but using comprehensible input, there is no virtue in struggling. Choose things you find easy, interesting, compelling. But if you buy an audiobook and you don't understand it, put it aside, because your journey is going to change, and the things that you don't understand today, you will understand in the near future. In today's episode, I've shared the 5 recommendations to ensure your success, and they have all focused on the input phase of language learning. We're using comprehensible input. Now, there is another phase later in your journey, the output phase. We've not dealt with that today. It's a fascinating topic, and I will foreshadow that when you transition to making output, to speaking in English, this is not an excuse to start struggling, stressing yourself out, and falling into bad habits. No, it's a time to continue these principles as we start to speak and continue on a journey that is pleasant and productive. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I invite comments below, and I hope you join us in future videos. See you soon.